Welcome everyone to this episode of the Never Alone, Never Again podcast. I am Johnny, and as always, joined by Krista, the sober Barbie. And we have a very special episode today. As you can see, we don't have any guests because we are going to talk about our experience attending Founders Day. So we are here in Akron for Founders Day 2026. It is so exciting. What are you excited about? What can you not wait to see?
Well, that it's 91 years old. There's so much history. I want to see the house. I want to see the rock. You're the tour guide. You've been here 10 times.
Oh yeah, so this is gonna be awesome. I'm so excited to show you everything in the Mayflower Hotel where Bill made the call, where Dr. Bob's house, the gatehouse, the big meeting. There's gonna be so much excitement. We're so excited.
The people is what I'm most excited. Everyone here is celebrating. They're happy and they're loving sobriety and they're loving their recovery and their roots and how they got to it, and just I have the chills thinking about all the people, so I'm so excited.
Founders Day is the beginning of Alcoholics Anonymous, and marks the date June 10th, 1935, which was Dr. Bob's anniversary. So Founders Day is a weekend full of alcoholics and addicts coming together to pay tribute and to experience history. And so I've been there quite a few times, but it was Krista's very first time. Krista, what did you think?
It was there's really no words, so we're gonna have a lot of videos and pictures to show you throughout this episode, but it was like a walk back in time. I feel like I just left the 1930s. I personally got sober through the 12 steps of AA, and they talk a lot about the history of that book and the founders of it, and to actually go step where they stepped and into their homes. And we had amazing tour guides that explained how they were in these moments was so powerful. And one of my favorite parts was being around 10,000 other people just like us that had the same excitement and they wanted to experience the same thing. And it was magical. It was powerful.
It really is a profound experience, and anyone who is in recovery in any way, shape, or form, I think, should go and experience this, because what I think the biggest thing for me, and it always has been, is the miracles, right? We are a bunch of miracles, but why are we a bunch of miracles? We're a bunch of miracles because we're together because of the 100 miracles it took for AA to come together. And, in 1935, when Bill went to Akron, he wasn't expecting to, start a program. He was there on a business deal, and the business deal went south, and all of his investors, all the people that he went with, bailed. And he was stuck in the Mayflower Hotel, which we went and saw. And, he had two options. He could either go to the bar, which was right down the hall, or go to the phone. And he went to the phone, and eventually led to meeting up with Dr. Bob. Now, and that before that, there's 1,000 little miracles that needed to take place in that, the Oxford group, and Ebby talking to Bill, and Roland Hazard, and all the different people that had to come along for Bill to eventually, talk to Bob. So we went, the first thing we did, because I've been there before and I had to show Krista, was we went to Bob's house. And Bob's house, I think, is so amazing because, they were initially in the Oxford group. Bill was in the Oxford group from New York. Bob was in the Oxford group in Ohio, and they were going to Oxford group meetings where they had the six principles. And they were doing what they do, and but they eventually got kicked out of the Oxford group because Oxford group, they didn't want a bunch of drunks coming in, so they went to Bob's house. And Bob's house is this tiny house, and he and his wife Anne lived there, and they had two children, and they invited Bill to live with them, and then invited all these people into their home. What did you think of Bob's house?
Um, it was cool because as we were pulling up, there was a ton of motorcycles. It's a whole motorcycle thing too. And you said Bill had a motorcycle, so that's kind of where that kind of ties in a little bit, I think. But we had to walk a couple blocks to get there because there were so many people there, and there was a line out of it, and they've turned it into almost like a museum in a way, like don't touch certain things because they have a lot of the original things from that home. And when we were waiting in line, you were like, there's 12 steps up to the house. Like, that's something you can't make up. And the tour guide told us, like, that wasn't, like, planned. The 12 steps walking up to the home. And when I went, I was expecting just, like, them pointing out where this happened and this happened. But I got a whole different experience when I went in because the tour guy was talking about his wife Anne and what she had to go through to help her husband because she wasn't an alcoholic. And they were our first, well, we were in the living room at first, and they told us this like great story about how they brought everybody in, and they had all these like powerful books out. And but then we went upstairs and they brought us to the bathroom first, and I was like, what are we, okay, what's gonna happen what story are they gonna tell us
Why
in
are
the
we all
bathroom?
piled in the bathroom right now?
They put me next to the toilet. I'm like, but the tour guides were so just, they were one of us, and they knew this history, and they enjoyed what they were doing and telling these stories. And he was explaining how showing us all the spots where Dr. Bob used to come hide his bottles from his wife because he didn't want her to know the amount of alcohol he was drinking. She knew, but she probably didn't know the excessive amount. And how he would put it in his sock, and or he'd put it when he'd come up, he'd go to the bathroom and then put it in a mitten and put it on the little outside porch, and she'd never look, or up in the door hanger because she was short and she couldn't reach. And I personally am an alcoholic myself, but my husband has struggled as well. And I put myself in Anne's shoes, and because I used to have to find all the things, and I felt her and what the families went through as well. I mean, their kids were living there too, but it was just the experience I got was not what I was expecting. It was more.
Yeah, that was, and you being able to see it from both perspectives. It's like I was there with you, and I could just see your mind kind of going both ways on it. It was very interesting, and we had some great conversations. Like, in today's days where it's not just booze, where hiding a bottle of booze is kind of a difficult proposition. It's like, all right, what am I going to do with this half gallon, right? Whereas hiding a bag is very different. It's way easier to hide a bag than it is to hide a big old bottle of booze.
Yeah, and I mean, when you are in addiction or alcoholism, our mindsets are kind of all the same. We're all different, but like that hasn't changed in 91 years. They're still hiding stuff from their wives. You're still hiding stuff from your partner or your family, and you think no one knows, but they know. They know, and it's a matter of time before you give it up or get caught. But that's not where our tour ended. We got to go into the bedroom where Dr. Bob had his moment of surrender.
Yes, that is, I mean, and that's amazing. That's another miracle, right? So Bill and Bob met in May of 1935. And Bob had and Bill moved into the house with Ann and Bob and the kids, and he stayed there for 5 months. Now, a few weeks in, Bob has to go to Atlantic City for a work trip, and he comes back and he was hammered. He did not stay sober from his first get go. And he came back, and on June 10th, 1935, he was in the upstairs bedroom with Bill, and he was
In
scheduled
twin beds.
in
They had
twin
twin
beds because Ann
beds.
had given him the boot and said, "You go hang out with your buddy." and and it's he had two options, right? And he had to go do a surgery, and it was either go do the surgery or not do the surgery. And he's pondering it all day long. He's hungover. They're trying to get him sober, and he that was his moment of surrender. And Bill asked him, said, "What are you gonna do?" And Bob said, "I give it all to God. I give the surgery to God. I give the drinking to God." And that was his moment of surrender. And, tens of thousands of people go to Bob's house, and they go into this room and they do the third step prayer, where we surrender and we turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understand him. And so it is it's historic. And to do the same thing that they did in 1935, and Bob stayed sober after that. So we were in that room where we surrendered and then did the third step prayer. It was awesome.
And I asked if I could sit in the exact spot in the bed, and the guy let he let me. I wanted to get the full
The full
experience, and it was
immersion.
actually the son's room. So when they would in that moment, they said that they sent the son up to the attic
Yeah.
to,
Yeah.
to
Well,
sleep. They
Bill and
wouldn't let us
Bob
go up there though.
No, we didn't go to the attic. Bill and Bob were living in the son's room, Smitty's room, and Smitty was living upstairs, and he was around 10 or 11 at the
Yeah.
time. And but it's just, I mean, it's just such a spiritual place and spiritual movement right there. And so to go there and be immersed in it is just so cool.
Yeah, and to find out that they said that it turned into like a motorcycle club after the house was sold, and then it was a fraternity for a little bit. Like,
Yeah.
think about that. I was in the fraternity at Dr. Bob's house. But they said they got a lot of the stuff that was originally in the home because they knew Dr. Bob's old bottles because they were all hidden in the craziest spots. And I thought that was cool because like a fraternity's not going to hide bottles. Theirs was probably out and about. But they like really dug deep to find those bottles. And then we got to sit at the kitchen table and pretend we were drinking tea, and we have pictures.
Yes.
And they said pick up the cups. Like they let us touch some stuff. And it was so cool. And then when we left the house, walked out the back door, they had a whole like fellowship happening where there was tents and free hot dogs. It was really cool. And now we get a hot dog. Alcoholics like hot dogs because there's a lot of people eating hot dogs. Just people hanging out, smoking cigars, boxes of donuts, selling t-shirts, and it was a whole like another vibe outside.
And
It's cool.
it's wild because like all these people had just gone through and gotten this spiritual experience, and it was just everybody's just so cool, and like I said, thousands of people go through there, and it was just I was sitting there drinking coffee where Bill and Bob had sat and drank coffee. That just it just gives such the good feels. Yeah, the hair on your arm standing up the entire time you're there.
Yeah, yeah, that was cool.
Yeah. So Bob's house is enormous, and then we went to the gatehouse. And so next we're going to be going into the gatehouse. This is of huge significance for Alcoholics Anonymous because this is where Bill and Bob met for the very first time. A meeting was arranged the day after Mother's Day, 1935, and Bob was drunk the day before. And so he met, and he was not interested in this meeting. He was hungover. But he said, I will give this guy 15 minutes. And they met at the gatehouse, and they wound up spending 7 hours talking to one another, one drunk talking to another drunk. And what they realized after 7 hours is neither of them had craved a drink. And this was the beginning of, this was one of the huge miracles that started the program. And the gatehouse. Okay, so this was, you didn't know much about the gatehouse beforehand.
I didn't know anything about the gatehouse.
So what was your,
I know now.
when I said, okay, we got to go to the gatehouse, what did that inspire?
Well, for the people who don't know, the city of Akron is where Firestone Tires was started. It's called the Rubber City. So Firestone and Goodyear Tire.
Goodyear.
Yeah, Goodyear and Firestone. And there was a very wealthy family, the
Cyberlings.
Cyberlings. And they had, I looked it up. Their house is one of the biggest U.S. historical mansions in the country. Huge, huge. And the daughter-in-law was in the Oxford group. It was Harriet, correct?
Henrietta.
See, Henrietta. She was the daughter-in-law of the Cyberlings, and her and her husband were kind of on the outs. And she was in the Oxford group, and she moved out of the big mansion, was living in the gatehouse of this mansion on the property. And that's who actually Bill got in touch with on the phone when he made that call at the Mayflower Hotel to try to find someone to talk to, because he didn't want to go to the bar. He wanted to, because he was already 5 months sober, I think, when he made this trip, correct? And so she said, okay, I got somebody for you, and got Dr. Bob to agree, but Dr. Bob was still not feeling up to it, and he's like, I'll give him 15 minutes. And they ended up meeting at the gatehouse the next day, and it ended up being a 7-hour visit. So that's kind of cool, because like when I talk to fellow recovering alcoholics, it usually is a very long conversation. It's not a quick, you guys get into some deep conversation. And so we got to go to this massive property that has a gatehouse, carriage house, mansion on it. It was the most beautiful, still kept, perfect. And we got to go into the gatehouse and see the exact spot where they met and had that 7-hour conversation.
It's I can't believe you remember all that. I mean, I was so crazy about it. We got to get to the gatehouse. We got to get to the gatehouse. And you're thinking like, what do we need to do this for? And it's just that. It's a magical piece.
It was one of my favorite parts.
And so Bill is in the Mayflower Hotel. He doesn't know what to do. He goes to the phone, and he's got a list of phone numbers, and one of the numbers is Henrietta Sieberling. And Bill, who is kind of, he's an investor. He knows the stock market. He knows the Sieberling name. And Sieberling is the owner of Goodyear Tires. He was one of the wealthiest men in America. And he sees Sieberling, and the courage that it took him to pick up the phone, and, it's like, I just need to talk to another alcoholic. So he's just picking up the phone and smiling and dialing. And he calls Henrietta Sieberling, who was the daughter-in-law, and she's living in the gatehouse. She calls Dr. Bob, who was drunk as a skunk, and talks to Ann and says, hey, I want this guy to meet Dr. Bob, and wasn't able to that night. So the next day, Mother's Day of 1935, Bill and Bob met at the gatehouse, and that's where they had their big conversation. And Bill then moved in, but touring the gatehouse, and not only do you learn about the history with them, but it's a big history of the Oxford group there, because Henrietta was a big believer in the Oxford group. The Oxford group was a lot like our program, but it was very, Christian based, and it wasn't a bunch of drunks. It was well-to-do people that wanted to live better lives, and they lived by 6 principles, which included confession, and it included helping others. It included all the principles that we have today in a condensed format. And that's what Bill and Bob started with. They started with the Oxford group, and then it was a few years into it when they finally changed things and developed Alcoholics Anonymous. But the Gatehouse, I'm telling you, that place is so rich in history, and just seeing where those two guys, Bob didn't want to be there, and yet he showed up, and Bill realized all he needed to do was sit and talk with another alcoholic. And he explained to Bob the allergy, which had been explained to him by Dr. Silkworth. And Bob was, because he was a doctor, actually like listened and paid attention. It was like, oh, okay. And because he'd been trying to get sober for years via the Oxford group but he wasn't able to do it until he met up with Bill, and they put together the allergy plus the spirituality. And that was the big piece of the gatehouse. 7 hours they sat and talked. Amazing.
Yeah.
And
I'm kind of glad the meetings aren't 7 hours though.
you know,
Sometimes I could talk for that long though, but that was cool. And then also, they said that Henrietta was had known Dr. Bob for a little bit of time and was praying very hard for him, and she wanted the best for him. And so that's why she knew he was like the perfect man to meet with Bill.
I mean, it was
And they
a,
also, there's so much history written, like they had like all these little things on the wall, describing what the Oxford group was, about Henrietta, about the meeting and all that. And I remember in quotes was about the Oxford group, it said soul surgery. So that's what the Oxford group was about. It was about like doing surgery on your soul, making your soul right, and they had they wanted to become new creations, new people through the Oxford group, but I guess there were so many alcoholics that needed it too, and they were their own. So something had to shift. And here's a few words from our sponsor, Never Alone Recovery.
Never Alone Recovery is a resource center for anything addiction or mental health. We are a toll-free number. Feel free to call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. 855-831-9996. This is available for someone who's suffering, also parents of those who are suffering, colleagues, whoever. Feel free to call at any time. Krista, what else do we have?
We host 5 free Zoom meetings a week, recovery meetings. We host a recovery TikTok live every morning, and you can find us on all social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok, and all of it will be in our description.
And so we went to the Dr. Bob's house, we went to the Gatehouse, we went to the Mayflower Hotel, we saw all this stuff. And then at Akron University itself is where everything is held, all the meetings, all the everything. And the area in Akron, they put on such a good event. I mean, there are meetings going night and day, all day for 3 days. And we heard some of the best speakers, and we went to some of the best meetings. It was so profound. What was your favorite meeting that we went to?
Definitely the old timers
Oh, you stole
one.
mine, because
Three.
the old timers panel. Oh, three of the greatest women I've
Well, if
ever
people
heard.
don't know, recovering alcoholics are very funny people.
They really are.
We are very funny. So,
The stories that these three women told. So one had 29 years, one had 34 years, one had like 49 years. And I'm telling you, the lady with 49 years, she made me laugh so damn hard. She had there were 3,000 people in this meeting, and she had everybody in stitches. That one was so, so good.
yeah, I mean, you have to have balance when you're talking about stuff so heavy. And to think about, because there was literally like 10,000 people in the whole weekend. And I was just looking at people knowing like, wow, every single person here has like lived someone's nightmare and has come from it, like come up from it by using the toolbox that was given to us in that blue book. And it just, so cool. And it was cool to see a bunch of recovering alcoholics taking over a beautiful college campus for a weekend. Like they were everywhere. Everywhere. It was like college all over again, but for
I
a
mean,
different
it's
reason.
awesome. And the university is beautiful. It's very big. It's spacious. And then here you got, 10,000 drunks and everybody is, just respectful. And there's people that stay in the dorms there. There's people that stay in Airbnbs and hotels. I mean, it's all over. Everybody comes from all over the place. And the other meeting is the history of the big book. And the archivist Gail, she puts on the history of the big book meeting, and it was 2 hours of the more information about the program, about Bill and Bob's life. And when she started, she worked with Lois, who's Bill's wife. She worked with Bill's first secretary, and she really knows her stuff. And I don't think you were real excited about that one, but you seem to really like that one afterwards.
Yeah, I thought it was cool because she knew. I mean, she didn't come in the program when Bill and Bob were still alive, but she got to meet, she met Anne, I think, right? Was it Anne? It was either Bob's wife, Lois or
Lois.
Anne.
Lois.
And she knew the secretary that helped write the book. She knew a lot of stuff firsthand, and she has helped be the one that makes sure like the right things are shown at the house for people to like see like the right books that they used and read. And I thought it was cool too because they got a lot of Bill's recordings. So we got to hear his voice, and that was really cool. I learned so much and I was able to retain it. Like it was just spoken to me in such a natural way that it wasn't boring. You know, a lot of history can be really boring, but it was tangible. I could almost touch it. It was cool.
And I mean the Bill and Bob meeting, that's great, but the program itself in building out the program was the writing of the book. And it took I mean they got AA number 3 pretty much right away. Bill Dobson, he was part of the group for the rest of his recovery. But in writing the book is is what brought us out, and the miracles that it took to do that. And they didn't have any money. They were in very low mental health places. It took 4 years for the book to be published, and Bill was writing. He couldn't find investors. He couldn't do anything. Eventually he got a dinner with John D. Rockefeller. That helped. That got the name out there. And when they finally got the book published and got it sent out, that's when, AA as a whole became what it is. But it took 1,000 miracles for that to happen, and what started in this little, house in Akron, and then went to New York, and they were going back and forth between the two groups. There was 40 people that were instrumental in writing the book, the big book. Bill wrote most of it, and I think the biggest piece of history is the 12 steps. You know, the 12 steps are the solution, right? And it is Bill who wrote the 12 steps. Now, the 12 steps are derived from the 6 steps of the Oxford group. Okay. But Bill, as he's writing the book, one night he finally has to write how it works. In a depressed state, he sat down and just wrote and wrote what is how it works and wrote the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, which has become the 12 steps of NA and GA and CA and all the other A's. All these 12 steps were written from Bill, who, you know, just in a state of depression sat and wrote down. That speaks volumes, man. You know, it speaks volumes. It doesn't matter where we are in life. With God behind us, we can do anything. And these guys did. And I'm telling you, that history of the big book, I told you I love that one.
Yeah, that was good. And it is a bunch of miracles coming together to make it all happen, but there was a lot of things that had to go wrong too. First off, Bill's deal gone wrong. Like that had to go wrong for this to happen. But also when they were writing the book and trying to like pitch it and stuff, like people were saying no to them, and they needed to for the way it came out the way it is.
And, I mean, Rockefeller, he said he could give all sorts of money. He was one of the wealthiest men in the world. And he loved the idea of Alcoholics Anonymous. He loved the premise of it. And he says, if I give you guys a bunch of money, it'll go south. And because he didn't, it went just the way it was supposed to. So the history of the big book and all the things that needed to happen for it to be written was so crazy. So that brings us to the last meeting. Well, not the last meeting per se, but Saturday night's big meeting, the culmination of the whole weekend, where it's held at the football field in Akron at the university, at the actual university football field, you know, and 10,000 people were in attendance to hear the big speaker. What was your take on the big meeting?
It was so, I again speechless, but it all started. They gave you when you registered. They gave us all a lanyard, and you write your name, where you're from. So that was cool to be able to just see people where they were all from, and but they gave you like an actual ticket from Ticketmaster to get into this, and they're like, don't lose it. I wonder how many people lost it, but to get into this stadium, and there was so many there was thousands and thousands of people in this stadium. And what was cool too is that every meeting they had big pictures of Bill and Bob and a big um like flower wreath, and that was showing up, that was popping up at every meeting. And then at the last one, I like that was cool. And the way all the speakers walked up, they played like oh, what song was it? The Minion song, if you're happy. And they walked up, it was kind of like Morgan
I
Wallen
belong
walking
in
up to the stage, like it was a whole vibe.
because I'm
Whole
happy
vibe.
doodle doo 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 doo
Yeah.
doo doo doo.
And they just walked up like it was like, or they're walking up to a big boxing match. Like they were just all professional, but all in good mood, and everyone's cheering, clapping, clapping, clapping. And then they do this big countdown,
Oh, the
and
countdown.
of people's like time. And um, everyone was talking about like how what happens during these countdowns, because other conventions host these countdowns as well, and how special it is for that person with one day. Imagine going to this like convention with one day, your first day. Like it's just mind blowing. Or even under 30 days. Like I couldn't even fathom. But they started with the early time, and then they got down to the guy with, there was one guy with one day, and I don't think I've clapped that hard ever. My hands were like sore from clapping so hard. Everyone just cheering this guy on, and it was just I pray to God that he has a few weeks now, but or like 10 days. But That was so cool. And then they went through all the months and the years, and I think they got to 64 years was the one with the most. And that there were so many old timers there, which was a cool thing as well. And recovery homes brought busloads of people, and then they had a speaker, and the speaker he had a lot of nuggets of golden nuggets of cool wisdom and information, and it really was everything I needed to hear. Because a lot of people through the years, like, people will talk down on AA. They'll say it's like a cult, or there's a bad taste in their mouth, and that was not it this weekend. It was all about God and what this is a tool to get to God. And it was just such a spiritual experience, and just powerful how people just can come together from all walks of life. They all have one thing in common. They want to heal, and they want to be better people, and they want to help the next man. And I didn't meet one mean person. Nope.
And
Everyone was so kind.
the nuggets that guy said, in referring to the big book, he said that the big book isn't the treasure, it's the treasure map. And the 12 steps are the tools that lead us to our higher power, that lead to a spiritual awakening, that lead to a completely different life if you decide that's what you want. And having a spectrum of one day to 64 years. The program's only 91 years old. And here's somebody with 64 years sober. It's mind blowing. And the love of 10,000 people all coming together for one person with one day was just, I mean, it was an explosion. It was an explosion of love. And it's undescribable. Because people are stomping their feet, they're clapping their hands, they're yelling, they're cheering. And it was for one person with one day, offering hope, offering the chance for a new life if you want it. It's so amazing. I'm telling you, I love it. I love Founders Day so much. So that was the big meeting.
And then when we left, oh, at the end of the meeting, we all said the Lord's Prayer
Oh yeah,
together. And that was just hearing everybody, and you could just feel it. Oh, it was so good.
yeah.
So good.
So on the last day, on Sunday, we go to the grave site. Now, we had gone to the grave, and you go and you pay your respect to Dr. Bob, where he's buried, and Anne, and it's a beautiful place, and people put their coins on top, or they put little bitty baby Jesuses, and
There was a screwdriver
yeah,
on it, and
I
I
don't know.
don't know why, but I
That's
do have a pic. I think I have a picture
That's still a
or
mystery why
video.
there was a
Yeah.
screwdriver on there, but I'm sure
There's something.
there's some alcoholic rationale behind why there's a screwdriver on top of Dr. Bob's grave. That's for certain. That's for certain. But the last day, there is a motorcycle procession where thousands of motorcycles ride from the university to the grave where it's a parade. And Krista and I were there, and we watched all the motorcycles go by, and the roars and the smiles and then afterwards there's a meeting, and they have another meeting but it's gravesite, and talking about the history, talking about Dr. Bob's legacy, talking about they wanted to build a statue for Dr. Bob, and Dr. Bob said no. Absolutely not. I didn't do this. God did this. And the humility on the guy, it was just awesome. And that final meeting on Sunday is just like the greatest culmination. And then the bagpipes. Oh, the bagpipes playing Amazing Grace as they walk to the gravesite. Oh, it's just a perfect ending.
It was this is the part that like sold me on the whole thing, because I'm like, what? He's like, thousands of motorcycles. They go up to the grave and all this, and we get there and we stand, it's like a parade. People are on the side of the road, and you can just hear and feel the engines revving from down the road. And it starts with a police escort. And I have a video of this that we'll show. And it's just thousands of motorcycles. And it again, speechless. But a funny part was we were all waiting, and here comes a guy on an electric bike, and everyone's cheering him on because we're all waiting for all the motorcycles. And I was like, this guy knows what he's doing. He's gonna end this thing. I knew it. And at the end, there goes the guy on the electric bike, like cheering him on. But they all pull in so uniformed, and just it was so just almost perfection how they all pulled in and like wrapped around the whole cemetery. And the graveside meeting was a kind of like a recap, but more on the spiritual side of like really what this is all about. And then the bagpipe. Oh, it was, and again we said the Lord's Prayer right there. And it was, that was just the way it all kind of how the steps work. The whole weekend worked and flowed together, and it was so powerful. And it made me want to go home and dig deep again in the book, and like reread it, and I want to go tell what happened to me that weekend with other people in the rooms, because it's just cool, because that's what someone did to me, you know.
You know, I call it my spiritual rejuvenation, and it's like a jolt. It's like getting an IV. It's like getting electrolytes. It's getting this added thing to your program, and going there many times, it never gets old. And I was so excited when you were there, and you were so excited and enthusiastic, and and I know that there were things that you were kind of like a little iffy on, but then when you came out and you were so stoked about it afterwards,
That was cool. That was cool.
that just made everything cooler for me. And seeing all the people there, all the newcomers, all the old timers, just seeing the whole thing together, is just brilliant. And now we got to start planning our trip for next year.
Yeah, it was, and we got to bring a group, because like everyone we've told about this. And what's cool too is like there's a stigma to us in recovery, because we all have a past, and like, oh, she's a drunk, or she's an ex-con, or whatever. And to think about, we were around all 10,000 people, and that was probably the safest place in America that weekend. Nobody was thinking about robbing someone. No one was thinking about ripping someone off. No one was thinking about fighting. Like, it was just fellowship and love. And oh, it was just like, I think that probably was the safest place to be that weekend in America. Just saying.
I'm really excited with this. I can't wait to see all the, because we've got so many pictures and videos that we're going to be playing alongside this, as you and I have been talking for the last 40 minutes. And just, it's one thing to talk about it, it's another thing to see it. And even seeing it, it isn't until you experience it, and, now, okay, so if you can tell somebody one thing about Founders Day, about Akron, to get them to come next year, what are you gonna say?
I don't know. You gotta come. It was like, again, I am speechless, but that, I think the motorcycles like were the coolest vibe to it. And it just, everywhere you went, you just saw crowds of them and crowds of them. And it, I just, you got to come, and you'll feel the love. You'll meet some really cool people, and you'll leave with, like you said, like a spiritual rejuvenation, for sure. And
if you love recovery, if you love that what recovery has given you, I mean, I think it's important to learn the history of it and how it came about so that you can then teach it to somebody else. Because, that's what I think I do more than anything else. And is I talk to people about the history of the program, and it's going here and learning it and actually being immersed in it that enables me the ability to actually talk about the history of it and knowing about it. And when newcomers come along and they ask how this all started, well, we got a pretty good answer. So
yeah,
it was fantastic, and I'm really glad we were able to get on here and share our experience with people. Anybody has any questions, comments, concerns, please let us know. Give us a comment or something like that. And this is because it just it's one of those things that you just need to experience if you love your program.
yeah. And even if you're not a recovering alcoholic or addict and you love history, it's still something you want to check out because this did happen and it is helping people. And Johnny and I are proof that those 12 steps work when you do it exactly how they say to do it
Absolutely.
in the
That's
book, you
that's
know?
it. It's all in the book. It's all in the
Yep.
book. Thank you everyone for listening. Hope you enjoyed our little trip to down memory lane, and we'll see you again next time.